All right, who are you here for, sir?
Yes, good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
I'm here for President Madam.
Is that case indicted or not indicted? Oh, what's the cause number?
2024 ER 37.
All right, if you go in the back and have them grab the file, just ask the clerk in the back if you go to the where it
Yes.
says 187th
Great, thank
and
you.
ask them to grab the file. You're welcome. Ray,
Yes.
we received a call from Kendall County from you wanting to know if you're in jury trial. I wasn't here to answer it. The clerk did,
Would be
but
nice if you did, Jeff.
But I hate I wasn't in the back to answer it. It wasn't transferred to me. But I would have let them know that the Ray Martinez I know would not hide from a jury trial.
Especially when I know the state is probably gonna dismiss it.
Yes, when it's going to be dismissed,
They already
right?
told me that.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what I feel bad about.
Adriana, let them know that yes, you are in trial in the 187th District Court. And if you need me to call Kendall County or any other county, let me know.
I will, Jeff. Although it'd been a nice day to drive to Bernie. but
You know, I know another defense attorney who's in Bernie right now.
I think I'll grab our witness, Judge.
Sure. I am still learning the names of counties here. It was easy for me to learn all of the parishes in Louisiana because when I would travel from school and you're on the Greyhound bus, it hits every small town because sometimes the Greyhound bus is actually transportation.
Local, yes.
My first time coming to law school here, I went on a Greyhound bus. And I went during the summer. And so we're driving, and you know, in San Antonio during the summer, it's like 100 degrees. So I'm on the Greyhound bus. And again, it's being used as the city bus for people in small towns. We get to this town, people have just finished working in the fields
Oh my
and
God.
coming off their ranch. And some of them have been working in manure.
Uh,
So the Greyhound bus, I've never been on a bus before where it's standing room only. People were standing in the aisles on the Greyhound bus.
must not have been fixed.
Yeah. And as we are driving, guess what ends up happening? What's the worst thing that could happen on a Greyhound bus when you're driving to San Antonio and the AC broke. Here's the other thing about Greyhound buses. They made that Greyhound bus where the windows don't open.
Oh, geez.
And there was a guy standing over me. And I appreciate the fact that he had worked because my mom, she's actually picked cotton before. So I appreciate the pain and sacrifice he was in. But that being said, I was holding my breath at some points, then taking in oxygen, then releasing it. I thought I was going to lose a couple of brain cells. And guess what? Time when we made it to San Antonio, guess what ends up happening?
It goes back on.
The AC comes on. And I'm like, And then Bashan, yada, 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 I almost ended in a Lifetime movie. Yes, I did.
I'm sorry. Payment has asked for those files. They just were indicted the other day, and I don't have any of them here. They're still downstairs.
All right. So what is your client charged with?
Credit card use, phone suspension.
I
All
can
right.
give it-
Let me give him a reset. All right. Are you coming from out of town?
Yes, Mom.
All right. And is your client from out of? All right. Could you give me the case numbers?
Yes, ma'am, I'm logging in right there.
Okay. Sure. What I'll do is I'll reset it. And since you're coming from Austin, I know that Austin traffic,
Oh, my goodness.
oh,
It is getting worse every day.
we've traveled through Austin. I traveled through Austin with my family at 1 a.m. Traffic's bad.
Wait, okay.
4 p.m. traffic's bad. You can't avoid the traffic except on one day. When I would drive home, if you travel on Christmas Eve,
Oh.
there's no traffic.
That's one day.
Oh, yes. So what I'll do is I'll reset it. And you can exchange numbers with the prosecutors.
Yeah.
With the prosecutors here. And what I'll do is, if you want to, you can appear by Zoom. Sure. And so we'll reset this. Sure. He's here because I don't think he wants to travel to Austin either. Oh, and Dinah, what's the defendant's name?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. It's Bettis, and I'll write it down. I apologize.
Sure. And how do you spell the first name?
It's Miguel, Miguel,
Oh, okay. And Perez is the last name?
and then it's hyphenated after Bettis, N-A-R-A-N.
Wait a minute. N-A-R-A-N-J-O. All right. And is your client here?
Yes.
All right. State,
Yes, ma'am.
his client is charged with fraud cases. If you could exchange numbers with him
Okay.
so that he'll have your contact number. And then what I'll do, this case was recently indicted. So I'm going to set it. I'll set it for April 1st. And that'll be at 9 a.m. And you can appear by Zoom, but they're going to exchange phone numbers with you and you'll need to confer with the state off docket.
Thank you very much.
All right, if you'll have your client sign the reset form
Yeah.
and then turn it back in to the clerk. All right, are all the jurors here? Oh, yes, everybody's here.
She'll get here eventually.
All right, if you want to have your client. Okay.
If you need me, let me know.
All righty. Donna, you ready? All right, court is going to call 2021 CR 7016, State of Texas versus Jose Lozano. Could I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Hank Wilkins and Daniel Escobar for the state.
Raymond Martinez and Victoria Cruz for Mr. Lozano.
And are you Mr. Lozano?
Yeah.
All right, in defense, are you prepared to proceed without Ms. Cruz?
We are, Judge.
All right. Then we will bring the jury in, and if your witness can take the stand, please. And just one moment. Diana, I'm sorry, not Diana. Adriana,
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am.
If you can give me the number from over there, please. The Zoom number.
8.
Oh, just one second.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm ready.
849-7911-9815. Sorry, Jennifer. Really
That's
quick,
okay.
one. Is there anything else I can-
Nope, that's all. And I will get you this. I'll send you an email.
Thank
Right. All right, we are ready. Just have a seat. All right,
All right, for the jury.
you all remembered, we stand for you. All right, please be seated, everyone. And I hope parking was okay today. All right, sir, you're still under oath and state.
Yes, ma'am. Just a few more questions. Mr. Kirkbride, did you give anybody permission to take your truck or your trailer or the contents of the trailer or the truck?
No, I did not.
Okay, and I'm gonna show you what number. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Recognize anything in what I've just marked as State's Exhibit 85?
Yes, this was when we were called out to recover our trailer after they found it parked in a neighborhood. And that's me standing there with my back to the camera, kind of looking at the remnants of what was left in that trailer. So what's in that trailer at this point is just wrapping paper that was used to wrap up things. There was a tub, garbage, basically. It was just trash and stuff that was left in there from the wrapping for our items, but there was no valuables in there. The only two things that come to mind that were found in there was a couple of pictures of our kids when they were young. They were just on the floor, just randomly. And then there was a certificate of Rachel's grandmother. She's a pure Yaqui Indian, and it was like a, I don't know what they call them, but it was basically a certification. It was in a frame. And of course, it wasn't in the frame. It was just wadded up and thrown on the floor. So
Your Honor, I offer Exhibit 85. This is attachments.
All right, State's Exhibit number 85 is admitted.
Do I have permission to publish this, Your Honor?
Yes.
So was it nighttime when you went out there to meet the officer?
yes, we were called before midnight when they recovered it. And that was shortly after midnight when we actually got there on the scene.
And is this you?
That's my back.
And is this your trailer that you're standing in?
Yes, it is.
And when you packed it, was it in this condition?
Oh, absolutely no.
Was it full? Was it packed full when you packed it?
It was so perfectly packed. It was side to side, top to bottom, and all the way from front to back. There was absolutely no room in that trailer left. I was even sliding some of my vintage signs and such on top of the load, on top of the boxes.
Do you know the approximate dimensions of the trailer?
It's a 24-foot enclosed trailer, approximately 7 feet wide and about 8 foot tall.
And that was full of your property?
Yes, it was.
And among the items that were stolen, was clothing stolen?
Yes,
Were electronic items stolen?
yes,
Were household items stolen?
yes,
Tools?
yes,
Were toys stolen?
yes,
Were sporting goods stolen?
yes,
Were weapons stolen?
yes,
Was a pistol stolen?
yes,
Were fashion accessories stolen?
yes,
Was jewelry stolen?
yes,
Were magazines stolen?
yes,
Were books stolen?
yes,
Were paintings stolen?
yes,
Were artwork stolen?
yes,
Were collectibles stolen?
yes,
Were vintage movie items stolen?
yes,
Did you have some antiques stolen?
yes,
You have some motor vehicle parts stolen?
yes,
You have military collectibles stolen?
yes,
You have US currency stolen?
yes,
Did you have food items stolen?
yes.
I passed the witness, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, defense.
Mr. Kirkbride, I understand from your testimony that you've been in contact with various people involved in this case since the beginning. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Law enforcement,
Yes,
the district attorney's office.
yes,
So as part of that, following, the status of the case and wanting to know what's going on, are you aware of an indictment being returned against Mr. Lozano?
not specifically. I don't think my mind would pull it up as an indictment.
Well, at some point you were told that somebody got arrested, correct? And I'm assuming, well, I'm not going to assume. were you informed of what that person was being charged with?
Yes, I was by Detective Hodge. Crime, I think initially he was talking over 200,000, then later it was a crime, because our numbers were so much higher, over 300,000.
And are you aware that in the indictment, it lists categories of items that were stolen?
Yes, I am.
Basically, the laundry list that the state just reviewed with you.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with me that the truck is not included on that indictment?
That is correct. I don't believe the truck was.
As well as the trailer?
I'm unclear on that.
Okay. But if those items are not in the indictment, do you understand that means that that issue of whether or not he stole those two items are not before this jury?
Objection, I think that calls for a legal conclusion, Your Honor.
Not
That'll
sure.
be overruled. You can answer the question if you know.
The best I can answer is that my F-350 dually truck was stolen along with my trailer and all my contents in it and everything that was inside of the truck, which was a lot. I had it inside the camper shell of that truck, where I had a newly rebuilt motor for the rat route, or the 47 or 37 truck that I had that we were pulling behind the Penske truck. And I had a transmission. It was on a pallet and was pushed forward into the pickup truck. And then also in the back of that bed was documentation, things that were important paperwork wise. We kept it in that location primarily.
What I was trying to get to, Mr. McBride, is whether you acknowledge or agree with me that what the issue before the jury is the value and of all your belongings, that some were recovered and some were not.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, approach, Judge.
Yes.
I'm gonna start with talking about state's exhibit number 84. When did you prepare state's exhibit 84, Mr. McBride, as best you can remember?
Right away, we were dealing with USAA, our insurance, and they tasked us with giving them a list of everything that was stolen, which was an incredible task to even take on, but we did. And so it was approximately 3 months after the theft is when we had a concluded list of everything that we can recollect that was stolen, that we had pictures of to help reconstruct it. And so approximately 3 months after the incident, we started putting together this list. We probably did 4 or 5 revisions of this list, in the sense that we were adding more items to it, until USAA said, okay, that's all the items. And then they put it in their own spreadsheet and kicked it back to us. And that's when they started doing the value adjustments on everything.
You've indicated on this list from state's exhibit 84 that this is a partial list.
Correct, because this list was given to the detective, and ultimately to the DA early in this case. This case, what, 3 years, 3 months now, since the incident happened. And when I gave this information, it was because it was being asked of us, hey, so what was taken? So we gave them what we had at the moment.
Okay.
That's this list. And we did add more.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to ask you to listen to the question and just answer the question.
Okay.
So, Mr. Kirkbride, my question is there a final draft of this list? That's the most updated version.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where that list is?
Yes. I gave it to the DA. It was the list that USAA published back to us, listing everything.
Now, are you talking about the list that was furnished just a few days ago?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, approach, Judge.
Yes.
let me go through Mr. Kirkbride, make sure I got the right one. Yeah. While I'm looking for it, sir, basically that list has all your final listing in your claim to the company for reimbursement of lost items, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And if an item is on that list, that means you never recovered it, correct?
That would be correct.
So because you would not have submitted a claim to USA for things that you did recover.
That is correct.
And the things that you did recover are all those pictures that we went through yesterday. Is that fair?
That'd be fair.
Okay.
And could I have parties approach briefly, please?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, remember my instructions. I'm just gonna have you step back up for 5 minutes.
All right, everyone, please be seated. And we're not on the record. So, sir, this is where we are. I don't know where this question is going to lead. People are always surprised that I learned the facts or proposed facts of a case as I'm listening to it, unless there's been a motion to suppress. So I'm hearing this just as the jurors are hearing it for the first time. I don't know where the question is going to go. However, if there's allegations that a claim was submitted to USAA, USAA paid that claim, and then maybe items were recovered, but there was no report back to USAA saying, oh, by the way, you paid me, let's just say for example, a pencil. You paid me for this pencil, but I've recovered it. So here are your funds back. Or either it's included in a list before USA makes a payment, and then the item is received back and USA isn't told, but USA paid for that. That could result in jeopardy.
And I'll just say this, the items. that
Well, no,
were-
no, no.
Oh,
I'm just,
Yeah, no,
I don't want
They were
you,
excluded.
yes.
but-
Here's the thing. I don't want you to give me any information about that. I just want to put everybody on notice with that. So if that is the case, which I don't know if it is or not, then you may need an attorney to instruct you on the consequences, the potential consequences for that. So if that is not the case, then we will proceed. But if that is the case, then he's probably going to need an attorney. I don't know.
Judge, I don't intend to accuse of anything, but because we got this list just a few days ago, I have to cover those bases.
No, 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 I understand. And I understand that you're just going to ask questions,
That question was asked.
but
Those are excluded from this,
that's where we are. Okay.
Were they excluded from this initial list or from the final?
from the final list.
All right. Thank you. I always want to make sure that everybody has all the
Yeah.
information they need.
Yeah, I'm good on all that.
All right. And I will tell you, you're not the first witness that I've had to give that instruction to.
Okay.
All right. If that is that, Deputy Mejia, can you let Deputy Laura know we are ready to bring the jurors back in? Sure. And do you have a copy of that exhibit?
I think I do, Judge. I'm having a hard time finding it. But I endeavored to make multiples, but I started marking on one. I needed a clean one for him, so I
Okay, I just want to make sure you have yours so the jurors,
think I do.
Judge, if you just give me a moment, I can put it out again.
all right. Diana, I'm sorry, Laura, just 1 second. Everybody's Diana. Do you know Diana Prentice? I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that I know you. You sure you don't know Diana Prentice? You don't know Diana Prentice? Ray is laughing because he knows, Daniel knows. They're just printing something out real quick. And you know what? Once you find out who she is, you're just going to be ashamed of yourself. No, Diana, you're going to be ashamed. You're going to say, I cannot show my face anywhere.
It was rough.
Prentice,
So my dog on the river just took a step on the step, it just missed it and just was like, I was pretty much like sitting there on the steps with my dog. So it was like, I'm gonna call my fiance and be like, you probably might need to come down here to help. Oh, iced it down, elevated it, left, I put a bunch of pillows underneath it.
I will give you, she has I wouldn't say a nickname, but another moniker. Well, since this is International Women's Month, who could it be? They're listening to us. Diana.
Yeah,
She's also known as Wonder Woman.
it's Diana Prince, Judge.
No, it's Prentice.
Is it Princess?
Mm-hmm. All right, let's bring the jury in.
All right, for the jury.
You are right, Daniel. It is Prince.
Mhm.
Prince. That's what they would say in the 70s show. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, defense.
So, Mr. Kirkbride, the exhibit number one is some generic documents involving your insurance claim, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I've now given you defendant's exhibit number two, correct?
Correct.
Is that the final listing that you gave to the insurance company of items that you never recovered that were stolen from you in order to make a claim?
That is correct.
And is it fair to say that in that list, you assigned the values you thought the items were worth?
That'd be fair to say.
Okay. And then the insurance company later came back and told you what they thought the value should be.
Correct.
And so that's a good summary of the dispute you had with the insurance company, obviously unrelated to the theft, but that's what we'd be looking at in exhibit number two, correct?
That is correct.
So in this case, when he's charged with over $300,000, it's because by your listing, it exceeded $300,000.
That's correct. I think it came up to 451,000, and it was all documented and quantified with research, comps, documentation, all given to USAA. They don't give you the full value. The insurance company works their formula in such a way that they depreciate everything, when a lot of the items should have actually appreciated because they were collector items and antiques. That's the
So-
rules.
Would you agree with me also that included in that figure is the vehicle
One moment.
somewhere?
Yes, I see the minus $19,604 is all they gave me for my vehicle. So that'd be minus that.
So just so the jury is aware, in the $400,000 figure that you submitted a claim for, how much did you submit a claim for in regards to the vehicle?
The vehicle was just submitted as a total loss because it was stolen and not recovered. And they do their valuation on it, which I disagreed with too, but that doesn't matter. And they gave me 19,600.
So you're saying
Or-
that the 19,000 is not in the $400,000 figure?
From what I can see, sir, no, it is not.
Okay, fair enough. So we have a listing of your final accounting of all the things you thought you lost, and granted, you did tell us yesterday you remember some things after the fact, but that's the final list of all the items, correct?
Correct.
It appears that all of that is personal property that was inside the trailer, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, my question is there a list of recovered property?
There is no list.
Okay. So when the law enforcement returned the items to you, was the manner of accounting for what was returned basically the pictures we saw yesterday?
Yes, but not all of that made it back to us. And yeah, not any of it was, it wasn't the items that were on the USAA, because keep in mind, we got our trailer back in our possession back a month after the event. USAA and us dealt with them for over a year. And that was certainly the dialogue that was going back and forth between our final tier adjuster and us, accounting for the things that we felt that we got back that were, you know,
And
not
don't make
on
it
the
clear,
list.
Mr. Kirkbright,
Yeah.
we're not gonna go through and try to
Okay.
make an accounting and make it all matched. I mean, that's an impossible task. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a third list of recovered items, so that we would know between the list of all the things that you lost, how much was recovered versus how much was never recovered.
No, there is no specific list.
Okay, so, and my understanding is you weren't here when they recovered those items, is that right?
I was not.
Okay. So when the police found things that they thought belonged to you, they contacted you, correct?
That is correct.
Then you made arrangements to use your actual trailer to try to recover whatever you could.
That is correct.
Okay, and somebody besides law enforcement on your behalf was there to assist in that process.
Yes, the person that had it stored at his house.
And so are you even aware of what was the process to document what was put in the trailer Or was there no effort to do that?
I'm not sure what law enforcement did. All I know is that I was contacted that they found the location where our stuff was, and I got a few photographs from the detective asking, are these your items? And I had my name on them. I say, yeah, those are our items. And what he did after that, I'm completely unsure, other than he had a group of folks, I guess, assist in working with the lady that was at the house to kind of delineate what was theirs and what was ours. And it just basically got thrown into the trailer and sat in Texas until I could arrange transport. Actually, I should take that back. We actually flew out to Texas once it was back in my friend's the backyard. And we kind of combed through everything, and a whole lot of that just got thrown away right away, but there wasn't much left. It was either broken, incomplete, or water damage from being left out.
And is it fair to say the water damage mainly affected paper items?
Paper items, clothing items, some artwork that, you know, it was no longer worthy of having.
For any reason, did you think to document what you threw away?
No, not at all. To me, it was just garbage.
Do you have any reason to believe that items that belong to you stayed at the location of the recovered items?
Well, I will say that looking at all those photographs, there was items that I don't recall ever seeing again since the theft that were in and around the area, but there were few. I was able to single in. I can't even recall them right now. I'd have to go through all the pictures again, but there's some items that we didn't recover. It looks like maybe a box of photographs and a few other things.
So would you say the majority of the things that are depicted in the pictures you did in fact get in your possession?
I'll say yes.
And then after that happened, some of those things you either discarded or felt they weren't salvageable?
Correct.
And so did you actually take some of those things back to Florida, or what happened next?
Myself and Rachel spent a day taking everything out of the trailer, laying it on tarps, trying to salvage what we could, and then repacked it back into the trailer. And then we flew back home, and then I arranged a transport company to tow the trailer back to our home, and that was probably, oh gosh, 7 months later, 6 months later.
Okay.
It was.
And so was it never suggested to you by law enforcement that there needed to be an accounting of what was recovered at that particular location?
Not to me.
Okay. Because so you would agree with me that we have no, other than the pictures, we can't create a list of what was located at the location where these items were recovered.
I didn't receive any lists, and I didn't create a list. I'm not sure what the officers did as far as documenting what they found, but I never received anything.
Okay. So let's go back to so defendant's exhibit number 2, you agree was your final listing of things that were never recovered, correct?
That is correct.
And that list totaled up to $400,000.
That is correct.
And what did you ultimately settle that claim for with the company?
The 231, 419 is in the column 3 after they did the depreciation against it.
And Mr. Kirkbride, I think we're all aware and clear at this point that you don't agree with that figure. But nevertheless, you signed releases saying that you agreed to accept that to settle the claim that you made.
That's correct.
Now, would you agree with me that you had other remedies to continue to pursue that claim?
I'm not sure what you mean.
You could have sued the company and said, no, I don't agree. I want my $400,000.
That never occurred to us. I mean, we were pretty tore up from this whole event. So the whole year of just trying to get that done, USAA claim done, was we were done. We were on the ropes. We were done. We had no fight left in us. We said, okay,
Understood.
we just want to get on with our lives.
But would you agree with me that the release that you signed included language that suggested that you agreed that the value in fact was 200 and whatever the number was?
Yes,
So all those items that are on the claim that you got paid for, do you have any reason to believe that any of those items were ever located at the same location as the other items that were recovered?
are you talking the items that are, that were, I'm unsure what you're saying. There's the vast majority, everything was gone forever. So what was found at this site was picked through basically garbage, things that didn't mean anything to whoever was picking through it. All of the valuables were gone. So what we recovered was some clothing items with mildew on them. Got one of my mini bikes back, got a kayak back. We had some remnants of our collections, most of which the glass was broke. So those were just discarded while we were in Texas. And the list kind of goes on and on from there, but it was. So maybe I'm not sure or clear of your question.
I'll ask a couple more, maybe we'll clear it up. We know from the pictures and from the officer's testimony and the person that went over there on your behalf, we know what was actually recovered from that scene and put in the trailer, correct?
Correct.
Do you know of any evidence that suggests that all the items that were never recovered were ever at that scene?
No.
In other words, let's hypothetical.
Other than seeing hundreds of cardboard boxes that were emptied and strewed about the yard and plastic tubs that had the tops open and strewed about the yard, I can only deduct that our stuff was in them, but no.
Well, I think in your testimony yesterday, you said something along the lines of nothing of any value was really left, or something like that. You recall saying that?
Yes,
So was that basically your way of saying somebody went through and found the valuable things and those things never reappeared?
that is correct.
But would you agree with me? We don't know who that somebody is.
Yeah, I guess I could agree to that. I mean, if it's just a yes, no question. But I think that's why we're here in court. We have the person here.
Well, and I understand where you're going with that, sir, and your speculation and your things that you could deduce. But this goes back to my initial question, is he was never charged with the theft of the truck.
Object to the form of the question?
All right, that'll be overruled.
I had to get my trailer there somehow. Had to get the camper shell off my trailer somehow. Or off the truck, I should say.
That's what, sir.
Right, state.
That's the witness, Your Honor.
All right, is this witness excused?
Judge, before he goes, I'm going to offer defense exhibit number 2.
All right, any objection to defense exhibit number 2?
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Yes. All right, defense, you had another question?
Yes, Mr. Kirkbride, apologies. Apparently, I didn't ask clear enough questions, but let me see if I can do it this time. You suggested that the final version of the list of all the things that were stolen from you was encompassed in defendant's exhibit number 2, correct?
Correct.
And the numbers on the very left-hand side of the columns, there's various columns. Very far left is the number that you ultimately decided was the value for each item you're making a claim for.
That is correct.
And you personally came up with those numbers by doing research, trying to recall what you paid for the item, that sort of thing.
That's correct.
And in fact, you even did research on what the value might be because some of the things were collectible and they might actually increase in value.
That's correct.
So all those numbers are your numbers,
Correct.
put together by you and your spouse and the research.
Yes.
And in fact, when you made the claim to USAA, they ask you, do they ask you to attest to that? Do you have to submit a sworn list or they just ask for a list?
They just asked for a list.
And how do they,
And we submitted photographs,
Okay.
a lot of photographs.
how do you go about submitting that? Is it a form that you fill out or you just send them what I'm looking at there?
No, they were uploaded and sent to the tier adjuster, along with any receipts that we did have at the time. The photographs were a lot of the ones from, again, I would, let's say you were at my house, you took a picture of me and I got a cabinet behind me and I take that picture and I scanned it and then I blow it up and I'm going through every item that I can find in the house. And then, okay, that's this item here. And then what is that worth? This is what we feel it's worth. They had a high, low, usually find a high, low because of condition. We always were very conservative and that's what we would add to the list. And that painstaking process was done for everything.
Ultimately, how many items are on that list?
Oh, gosh.
I think they're numbered on there.
Okay, that helps. There's 306 columns, but you should note that there's numbers like 42, 16, 45. I mean, there's a bunch of like in one category, there would be like under the toys. Let's see if I can find a couple here. Like several camping gear items. There was 20. And then I had to do a unit cost, $150, again, an average of our camping gear. And then that got put into that column. So even though there's 306 line items, each line item has a quantity associated with it of a particular collection. It was just too tedious and too much, and USAA really didn't want that much detail. They just wanted us to state and then give them the average cost. So if I had like I had a 10-toy motorcycle collection, pretty vast collection, along with Hubleys and Auburns, just an antique motorcycle collection, toys. Okay, Hubleys and Auburn, they're just name brands from the 50s. They were just cool little motorcycle plastic toys, along with 10 toys. That collection of toys would range from, I think, $40 all the way up to $800. So when I had put them all together, and this is with the instructions that we had from the USAA, I had to do an average. So I had to average and then put a unit cost for each toy. Like if there's 25 of them or 30 of them, I would have to say the total value is this, the average cost, if you divided it, is this. And then that's how they had us given the information.
So to understand your explanation correctly, the 50 toys would be only one line item out of the 300.
Correct. Like this is a kind of a silly one, but over 300 Blu-ray movies. That's just one line item, but there's 300 of them. And so I had to do an average cost. Okay, $10 each. And then it came out to 3,000. That's what the center line is. And then they do their adjustment. They knocked off 750, gave us a credit of 2,250 on that one line item. And the paperwork shows how that was done.
So would you agree with me, Mr. Kirkbride, that the vast majority of things were not recovered, and what you did recover was a small percentage?
That is correct.
That's the way to judge it, and I'll re-offer defendant's exhibit number 2.
All right, any objections to defense exhibit number 2?
No objection, Your Honor. We don't have any more questions.
All right, defense exhibit number 2 is admitted. Is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse, I think.
Yeah, excuse judge.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state and the defense. All right, you may step down. State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Detective Vincent Gonzalez.
All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can have a seat. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Detective Vincent Gonzalez.
All right, if you'll make sure you keep your voice up so that the members of the jury and the court reporter can hear. All right, state.
Detective Gonzalez, who do you work for?
City of San Antonio Central Police Department.
How long have you worked for SAPD?
Approximately 22 years now.
And what are your current duties with SAPD?
Currently, I'm assigned to the Vehicle Crimes Unit.
And what's your role?
I'm an investigator detective.
And before you became an investigator detective with the Vehicle Crimes Unit, where were you assigned?
I was assigned as a uniform evidence detective with South Patrol.
And what is a uniform evidence detective?
Uniform evidence detective, we go and collect evidence such as photos of a crime scene, Latin prints of a crime scene, conduct presumptive drug test, or collection of any type of evidence.
And are you a certified peace officer?
Yes, I am.
And what training did you have to undergo to become is it a UEDI?
A UDI, we basically would take a test through the promotion ranks. Once you're selected, you go through a 2 weeks class and writing for a CSI, or then do a ride along, sorry, after you do your training.
And so you're trained to gather different types of evidence and to document things, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so I want to draw your attention to December 4th of 2020. Were you working on that day?
Yes, I was.
And did you have to respond out to go process a scene?
Yes, I did.
What did you have to go process?
I came in as a recovered stolen vehicle, which ended up being a trailer.
And do you remember what time did you go out there?
I know it was after midnight, I believe, roughly. Sometime it was late at night.
And would it help to have your report refresh your memory?
For the time, yes. Sorry.
Sir, I want you can't read directly from that, but if you need your memory refreshed, just take a moment, read and answer the question, okay?
Okay.
So roughly what time did you go out there?
So about 11:40 p.m.
And was there another officer that was already at the scene?
Yes, the officer that was assigned to the call, Officer Tackett.
And just for clarification, what was the SAPD case number for this case?
For this case, it's SAPD 20230-259.
And is that the case number that just sticks with the case throughout the entire investigation?
That's the case number that should be attached to it at all times, yes.
So while you were out at the scene, what did you do in processing the trailer?
I arrived at the scene, I photographed the recovered vehicle in the condition it was found, and then I turn around and search for Latin prints and process for the Latin prints that I located.
Yeah, and explain to the jury, what's a latent print?
A latent print is an impression left from a fingerprint onto a smooth surface.
And are fingerprints left on every single surface?
Not on everything. They're usually left on a smoother type surface like glass or metal.
And what about palm prints? Is that something you would also process?
Yes. Yeah.
And did you also take photographs on this night?
I did.
First defense. I'm showing you what's been marked states exhibits 86 through 103. Do you recognize these photos?
I do.
And what are these photos?
These are photos that I took that night.
And are they true and accurate representations of the trailer and what you observed?
Yes,
Have they been altered in any way?
no.
Your Honor, state would offer states 86 through 103, and I'll tender to defense for inspection.
No objection, Judge.
All right, states exhibits number 86 through 103 are admitted. Granted.
So when you took these photographs, do you remember what was the condition of the trailer?
It was empty. The trailer was abandoned on a street. And most of the items were gone from inside the trailer.
And you said you also processed this trailer for prints. Where did you find prints?
On the exterior side, on the front exterior, right there where the tongue is at, usually where you would connect or disconnect the trailer.
And what's the process of obtaining fingerprints?
We take a black powder, non-magnetic, spread it over the area that you want to dust and search for the Latin print. And then we'll take a transparent tape, put it over the area you want to lift the print from, and then remove the impression from that way, and then put it in the back of a card, an index card.
And then what would you do with that card once you've obtained the prints?
Once the prints have been obtained, we submit the prints to we had a file box, submit them in there, log it in. It would indicate the location, the case number, the exact location where we found the prints from. My name would be on it, and approximately the time and date.
And where do you leave these prints?
They would get submitted to for the fingerprint processing. We have a box that they'd come pick up. It's like a lockbox where we submit our fingerprints to.
What's the purpose of it being submitted to a lockbox?
For the custody, chain of custody, so that way, that's the last time that it gets added, and no one else can get it, other than the person with the key.
So I'm gonna approach, because you brought something with you today, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And now you didn't have custody of this before today.
Judge, you're only the witness.
All right, that'll be, I'm sorry, once an objection is made, remain silent, and then I'll make a ruling on that. Defense, what is your objection?
Leading the witness, Judge.
All right, that'll be sustained.
What did you bring with you today?
I brought the Latin print cards that I took of that night.
And did you have this in your custody before today?
I did not.
Where did you get these from?
From my a fingerprint team member who works in that department.
Now I'm gonna mark this envelope as States 104. Now, what is inside States 104?
3 index cards of fingerprints that I lifted that night.
And how do you know that the cards inside States 104, that they were the prints that you lifted?
They're in my writing with my name on it.
Did you put any case information?
It's got the case number on it. It's got the location and time. A quick brief drawing on it that I put to show where the prints came from.
And inspection, States 104. Write that down though. So, Your Honor, state would offer State's Exhibit 104 and its contents. It's 3 latent fingerprint cards.
May I take them over there, Judge?
Sure.
Have you actually looked and see what's inside that envelope?
Yes,
Like right now?
yes,
Okay, and so you're satisfied that those are the ones you took?
yes.
Okay, no objection.
All right, State's Exhibit number 104 with contents is admitted.
And what was the case number that's written on the card?
It's on the top of the card envelope or actually an in card.
Both.
So it's 20230259, which is the same one that's on the cards around the corner.
Ask the witness.
No questions, Judge.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse, Judge.
Excuse me.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. You're only allowed to speak to attorneys for the state or the defense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you'll step down, Diana, do you need to sign?
I'm on duty.
Just one moment. She needs a card to accept that. Yes, it's admitted, but she needs to sign a sheet that she's received it.
We're bringing her.
Diana? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, we call Denise Serenil.
Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Denise Serenil.
All right, and if you can make sure you keep your voice up so that the members of the jury can hear and the court reporter can hear. All right, State.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you tell the jury what you do for a living?
I am a latent fingerprint examiner.
For who?
I work for the San Antonio Police Department.
And how long have you been doing that?
Latent examiner, 7 years,
How long have you been employed by SAPD?
30 years.
And what are your duties as part of your job?
Part of my duties is receiving latent prints, examining them for legibility, clarity, signing them in, showing that I did receive a particular jacket of latents.
Okay. And do you have a training? Did you go through training as part of your job?
We did in-house training.
Can you describe that to the jury a little bit?
In-house is working with latents on a day-to-day basis, working with the unknown, knowing to work the AFA system, which is the automated fingerprint identification system.
And can you sort of briefly describe to the jury what's a fingerprint, what's a palm print as part of your job?
A fingerprint is an impression left on the surface by the friction ridges of each finger and thumb. A latent print is unknown, unseen, and needs some type of further development to be seen.
And did two people ever have the same fingerprint or the same palm print?
They do not.
Okay, you've never heard of that as part of your work?
Correct.
Okay. What's an inked print? Can you tell the jury when you refer to an inked print, what are you talking about?
An ink print is a rolled impression of each of the friction ridges of each finger and thumb with black ink on a suitable contrasting background.
Okay. And All right. So when you examine a set of prints as part of your job, where do you pick up the prints from?
On a daily basis, we pick up latents from the central, from the central, station. That's done on a daily basis. And there are 5 examiners. We're each assigned to a district of the city. So this is how I obtain what I am working on.
Okay. Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes. Oh, sure, you can adjust it however you would like.
Oh, it's
Is it too high?
no, it's too back. Is that
Oh,
okay
you will
with
have to lift it up and push it over the
That's
hump.
fine. I'll just take it.
Thank you.
I'm going to show you what's been marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 104. Do you recognize this?
The latent jacket?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay, and how do you recognize it?
This is what I worked on. It has the date I received it.
Okay. And did you make a report as part of your work on this case?
I did,
Would it help you to have that in front of you to refer to?
sure.
I'm going to hand you that. Can you go ahead and open up State's Exhibit 104 and tell the jury what's inside that envelope?
There are 3 latent cards.
Okay, can you kind of show them? Yeah, let me see so we've got like sort of a front and a back here. Can you describe to the jury what's on the front of these cards?
The front of the card is the actual latent that was lifted.
And then what about on the back of the
The
cards?
back side is, it has the location, the latent was investigation. It has the latent print obtained from. It has the individual who obtained the print. It has the date and the time.
And so as part of your work on this case, did you examine these prints?
I did.
Okay, and did you, we've got 3 cards here inside of State's Exhibit 104. Did you come to any conclusions about any one of these 3 prints here?
I came to the conclusion that they were legible.
Okay, and so once you determine that they're legible, what do you do next?
I enter them into the APHIS system.
Okay, and can you describe to the jury, what's the APHIS system? What does that mean?
APHIS is the automated fingerprint identification system. It's a tool to help narrow the search of a print.
Okay, and so what happens when you put one of these prints into the APHIS system?
What I do is, you want me to do the step-by-step of how
Sure,
to?
yeah, just to kind of explain how that works.
I capture the image of a latent. Capture it, and then, once it's captured, it will send me to another screen.
Sorry, when you say capture it, do you scan it into the
Take
machine?
a picture.
Take a photo, okay. And then what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I position it to where I feel I'm gonna look at it. Clean it up, and what I mean by clean up is if there's any smudges, I'll block it. And then I'll come to the point where I am going to put my action points, where I'm actually gonna mark my points of what I'm gonna look for.
Okay, and so what do you mean by action points? What you're looking for? Can you explain to the jury how that works?
Yes, if I may.
Yes.
Action points,
So for purposes of the record, you have a demonstrative here
Yes,
that
I
you're gonna
do.
show to the jury? Okay.
action points could be a
And-
dot.
Excuse me. And if you need to step down, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not able to see, if you'll let them know, and they'll step down.
You want,
Yeah, if you could, I can display it here. Is that okay, Judge? If I display it?
Yes.
All right, so can you kind of walk us through what you mean by that?
so what I'm doing is when I'm getting my latent, getting ready. What I'm doing is I'm marking, this is what we call action points. It could be a dot. This is what we call an enclosure. Like I mark 2 points here. It could be, I'll go 1, 2 ridges down. Here's another action point that I mark. If I go over to another ridge, I have 1 dot here and I have a ending ridge here. These are my points. This is what I am looking for in a latent.
Okay, and that helps you identify, that helps you match up.
It helps me, yes.
Okay. And so you took these fingerprints, you put them into the APHIS system. What happened next?
I launch it into the state database and the FBI database,
Okay.
and it searches.
Mhm. And what happens next?
I'm sorry.
What happens after you?
After I launch it, I wait for my candidates to come back.
And is this the return that you get in this case?
Yes,
And so did you come to any conclusions after you put the information into the APHIS system?
I was given 20 candidates.
Yes, ma'am. And did you get any matches?
Yes, I did.
And who did the fingerprint match to?
It matched to Aracon Jose Lozano.
Okay. And you were here earlier in the week, right? You were here in the courtroom?
No.
Earlier in this week, did you take a fingerprint from somebody
Oh,
here?
yes, I was. Yes,
Okay. And did you bring that with you?
yes, I did.
Okay. Let me see that for a second. I'm gonna throw a exhibit number here. Daniel, 105.
Yes.
Okay, and so I've just marked this as State's Exhibit 105. Do you recognize this?
Yes,
And how do you recognize it?
because these are the prints I took yesterday.
Okay, and so what's on the front and what's on the back here?
On the front is what we call the 10 print. These are the fingers and the thumb.
So don't show it to the jury quite
Oh.
yet here, but so on the front, you've got what do you have on the front there? You have fingerprints?
I have the fingerprints.
And then what's on the back of that?
Back is the palm prints.
Okay, and you took these fingerprints?
Yes, I did.
And who did you take them from?
From the individual.
Can you identify them?
He's wearing bluish grayish shirt.
Okay, and can I see that document? Let me see that here. Your Honor, I offer State's Exhibit 105. Objection.
All right, State's Exhibit 105 is admitted.
And so, could I publish this, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay, so explain to the jury how these there we go. So what are these 2 rows here?
What are those 2?
Just the like going this way, what are those prints of?
This top part is the right hand. The second part here is the left hand. This is what, these are what we call rolled prints. Where I got a black ink and I rolled each individual finger.
Okay, can you show me on my finger? Just to give the jury an idea, if you're gonna roll my index finger here, what would you do? If there was ink on it already?
Okay, there was already ink on it.
Uh-huh,
What I do is I roll it from side to side,
uh-huh.
each finger. I do the following with the rest of the fingers.
Okay, good deal. And let me show you the back of this document here. So on the back of States 105, what are those there?
Those are the left and right palm prints.
Okay, so if you inked up my hands, how would you get those onto a piece of paper like you did
I
there?
would ask the individual to close their fingers.
Mm-hmm.
I would hold on to their thumb and I would press down. Get much detail as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do the same to the other palm.
Okay, I'll give this back to you. See that report here? So in this case, you had, in States Exhibit 104, there's 3 different prints here. Did you put all of these into APHIS?
With the palm, yes.
And which one is that one? This one? Okay. And so this is the one, I'm gonna mark this as 104A. And so, Your Honor, I offer States Exhibit 104A.
Objection.
All right, 104A is admitted.
So this is the print that you received. And you compared that, this is the print that you put into APHIS.
Correct.
And you got the match from this print in APHIS, right?
Yes.
And then from these prints, did you make any determination about States Exhibit 105 and whether it came from the same person as States Exhibit 104A?
Yes.
And what was that conclusion?
They were one of the same.
So these prints came from the same person who left these prints.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have to get a certain amount of points to call something a match?
In-house is 7. For the APHIS, it will be 10.
Okay, I pass the witness, Your Honor.
No questions, Judge.
All right, is this witness excused?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. The rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. All right.
Okay, so let's. Yeah, they're gonna keep going. Judge Boyd, maybe approach.
Yes.
The property, is it a property release?
Yeah.
I do have some.
Okay.
Recess. Then we're going to come back and we'll be back at 10:30. Remember my previous instructions. Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from.
Inside.
Yes. All right. Everyone, please rise for the jurors.
N-I-L. N-I-N-I-L. Sorry, not no. L.
Diana, I don't know why I thought her name was Diana Prentice.
I got you, Judge.
I don't know why. My mind is, you know what?
I don't know why I thought her name was Dinah Prentice, but my mind is still a steel trap. It's still a steel trap.
Still trap.
I'm telling you.
The only reason why I know that is because I'm a super big nerd.
Oh, yes. From my childhood, I'm telling you. That's what I remember. I still remember her with her lasso. All right, are both parties ready to bring the jurors in?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's bring the jurors in.
All right, for the jury.
Oh, and also, y'all can sit in any chair over there you want to sit in. No assigned seating. Y'all want it to be an assigned seating. All right, everyone, please be seated. State, call your next witness.
State Patrick Knocker stand.
All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up for members of the jury and the court reporter. If you could state your name for the record, please.
It's Patrick Knocker.
State.
Detective Knocker, who do you currently work for?
Bear County Sheriff's Office,
How long have you worked for the Bear County Sheriff's Office?
29 years.
And what are your current duties with the Bear County Sheriff's Office?
I'm a detective with the Auto Crimes Unit.
And so what sort of crimes do you investigate?
Burglary of vehicles, stolen vehicles, unauthorized use.
And how long have you been in that department?
About 7 years now.
And before that, what did you do?
I worked white collar crime.
And so I want to take you back to December of 2020. Where were you officed out of?
San Antonio Police Department on the academic court with the Regional Auto Theft Task Force.
And what was the Regional Auto Theft Task Force?
It was a combined unit between San Antonio Police, Bear County, and DPS.
And what was the purpose of this task force?
Resources and intel. We'd get a lot more intel working together on all these car burglars and car thieves.
And so how closely did you work with members of San Antonio Police Department?
Very well. We were in the same office.
How far away would they be from you?
Some would be right next to me.
And what type of cooperation would happen? What would you guys pool the resources?
Well, we had our systems, our database that we could check. San Antonio had theirs, so we would go back and forth.
So were you familiar somewhat with some of the cases that they were investigating?
Yes.
And so I want to draw again your attention to December of 2020. Were you in contact with Detective Hodges with San Antonio Police Department?
Yes.
And did Detective Hodges ever inform you of the case he was?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
All right, that will be sustained.
And Judge, may we approach on that?
Yes.
Now, Detective Knocker, how closely, would Detective Hodges speak to you about investigations that were currently ongoing?
Yes.
And what type of information generally would he relay?
Normally, if one of his cases would spill out into the county, then he would get either myself or the other two detectives, information on it.
And would that kind of happen vice versa, where if one of your cases was in the city? in your
Yes.
Jurisdiction.
Yes.
And so. Did you ever go out to a scene on December 22nd of 2020?
Yes.
And do you remember what was the address of the location you went out to?
13,000 block of Greenwood.
And what city was that in?
I think it's Atascosa.
But that's still in Bear County, is that correct?
Yes.
And why did you go out there?
To do a knock and talk.
And explain to the jury, what's a knock and talk?
It's basically when we just go out, knock on the door and see if we can't speak to the resident owner.
And did Detective Hodges ever communicate to you why you were going out to that location for a knock and talk?
Yes.
And what was his reasoning?
He said he had got a print
Objection,
hit.
Your Honor, hearsay.
All right, that'll be overruled. You can answer the question.
He got a print hit on a recovered stolen trailer.
And so, who accompanied Detective Hodges out to this location?
I did.
Was there anyone else there?
I had called for two patrol deputies.
And so, on this day when you conducted this knock and talk, what happened?
As we arrived, Detective Hodge went to the front door. I sent the two patrolmen to the back, and then I stayed over on the right-hand side of the residence.
When you were approaching this residence, did you notice anything that you could see from the front yard in the backyard?
Oh, yes.
What did you notice?
There were chopped up cars. There was a bunch of property laying in the backyard.
And was a warrant ever obtained to search that location?
Yes.
And Coach Defense Counsel. I'm approaching with states 106 through 110. Do you recognize these photographs?
Yes.
And what do these photographs depict?
These are of the backyard. This photo states Exhibit 106 is from the right side of the residence going into the backyard.
Okay.
The rest of them are in the backyard.
Okay. And would it be fair to say that the photos kind of give a panoramic view of the backyard?
Yes.
And have they been altered in any way?
No.
Your Honor, state would offer states exhibit number 106 through 110.
Board address.
Yes.
Officer, did you take these pictures?
No, sir.
When was the first time you saw them?
Those pictures?
Yes.
Yesterday.
And this trip that you made out to the scene was 3.5 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Judge Reed objected, he cannot lay the proper foundation for admissibility of these items.
All right. States exhibits 106 and 110 are admitted.
Permission to publish, Judge?
Granted.
Now, would you agree with me that there were a lot of items in that backyard?
Yes, sir.
And after the search warrant was obtained, did you start to investigate any of these items?
Yes.
What items were you looking at?
The vehicle parts.
And what type of vehicle parts were there?
We approach Judge.
Yes.
And then we'll bring you right back in. All right, remember my previous instructions. You want this right? All right. Yes, she went to the restroom. All right, the rule has been invoked, so you can't
Yes, ma'am.
discuss your testimony with anyone. All right, I do remember you asking her a question and her stating that all the other items belong to them. I could be wrong. So, Diana will be able to see if she can find it.
Yes, Judge, but if that, even if that's the case, that would be impeachment as to her.
Mhm.
In other words, that would suggest to the jury that maybe she's lying. She's not on trial here. And we can't impute misstatements, lies, whatever else, extraneous offenses that she may be committing in his trial for something else.
So, do y'all wanna look with Diana and see?
That, my notes say that the question from Ray was belief that the area behind your house was solely your property, and then she says yes.
I do
All right,
recall asking her, did he in the past buy and sell things? I didn't say stolen things.
Understanding was Jose had bought all the items, yes.
What day was she on here?
Jeez. At this
Uh,
point.
What day is today?
Wednesday?
Wednesday.
This is you, just.
Six.
All right, so here's the issue, Diana. It's his ex who testified. What we're trying to discover is whether or not Ray asked her, or if it happened under his cross-examination, that she said the items in the back belong to them. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am, and it's, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And it's part of this line of questioning where Ray's like, well, he works as a mechanic, he would buy tires, car parts and sell them, right? And you wouldn't sell them, right, Edith? It was Jose who would sell them. That's like what we're trying to get at.
All right, so if you can tell me where that is, and then I'll make a ruling on whether or not it's relevant or should be in at all. So if y'all would check with Diana, and let me take this phone. Yes.
Oh, here's another one. Vehicles, car, trailers, not having. She said. Yeah, that's true.
So
Hey, look at this guy.
That was just the one on the passport. Yeah, I talked to Jason and Todd the other day, and I said, you know what? I go, the problem is if you come back and try to argue, because he took off from the case. Right, and then
All rise for the jury.
Now, Detective Docker, after the search warrant was obtained, were any items, taken into custody as evidence as part of this case?
Yes,
And were those items both inside and outside of the home?
yes, sir.
And were you there to help collect these items and load them back up?
Yes, sir.
Pass away.
All right, defense.
Sorry, is it officer or detective?
Detective.
Detective. So when you recover stolen property, what is the protocol or what is the manual say you're supposed to do in terms of documenting what you recovered?
Should be an inventory list, but San Antonio Police did the inventory.
Okay, well, just so the jury understand, I understand what you're saying, but just so they understand, tell them what an inventory list is.
Inventory list would be any item that is collected will be documented. A copy should be left with the residents. It'd be same on the search warrant. You just have a list of what was seized.
Okay. So let's cover both those one at a time. So you leave a list with the actual people at the home that you're searching, correct?
You should leave a copy there.
And would you agree with me that the purpose of leaving them the list, if there's ever a dispute, hey, you took something from my house that belongs to me, not to, that you think is stolen, you go back to the list.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But, and then going back to the search warrant, you're required under law to submit an inventory after a judge gives you a warrant allowing you to search a particular location.
Yes, sir.
In other words, just go through this process. When you want to search somewhere, you can't just go because you want to, right?
No, sir.
There has to be a legal basis to do it.
Yes, sir.
And would you agree with me, one of those legal bases is, which is probably the most safe one to use, is to get a judge to sign a warrant.
Yes, sir.
And when the warrant is signed, the judge tells you, I'm allowing you to search a house, a car, whatever it may be. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you go and do exactly what the judge said you could do.
Yes, sir.
In this particular case, you obtained a search warrant for this Green Lawn address. Is that right? Did I get the right street?
Greenwood.
Greenwood. Greenwood. And what did that allow you to search?
I don't know. I didn't do the warrant.
Okay.
I've never even seen the warrant.
Okay, so some examples could be the interior of the home.
Yes.
It could be garage.
It's usually the property, to include the house or surrounding outbuildings.
Okay. And the law requires you to actually go back to that judge and give him a list of things that you confiscated pursuant to that warrant.
Yes.
You're saying you didn't do that because it wasn't your warrant.
Yes, sir.
But if it was your warrant, you would have done that.
Yes, sir.
What if you encounter a scenario where you go search somewhere and you confiscate like dozens of items? Right? Is that an exception? Well, there's just too many to list.
No. I list them.
Okay. Is it sufficient to take photographs and say, well, I didn't make a list, Judge, but here's a bunch of pictures of what we took?
That I'm not sure of.
Have you ever done that?
No.
Okay. So, and I know it's probably obvious, but when you say list, you actually do 1, 2, 3, as many as there are, and describe each item that was confiscated.
Yes.
Okay. Would it surprise you that an inventory list was not submitted in this case?
I'm not aware of it. I don't know who was in charge of the inventory. I mean, we were out there for 8 hours, so
And how many officers were out there?
I couldn't tell you.
More than a couple.
Oh, yeah, there was a few.
So certainly you had the manpower to make the list.
Like I said, I wasn't in charge of that part.
When you make your list, you handwrite it or you put it on a computer? How do you do that?
Handwriting.
Would you ever execute a search warrant and not file a return with a list of inventory list?
Has it happened before? Yes.
Would you ever do that?
I have forgot to do a list.
Well, and now you anticipate my next question. The only reason was because you forgot.
Yes.
You didn't intentionally do that.
Not intentional.
Have you ever had occasions where somebody in the magistrate's office that handles the search warrant issuance calls you and says, hey, we haven't gotten your inventory?
No.
Okay. Have you had law, attorneys, prosecutors, other people come back and say, we can't find your inventory?
Not.
Because you always submit one, right?
Yes.
I want to turn your attention, Detective, to the pictures. It seems like the point of view is looking down the driveway on those pictures, right?
There was really no distinct driveway. I mean, it's just open on both sides.
Okay,
Now, could
Well-
they been used as a driveway? Yes.
well, do any of the pictures depict the front door?
Not the ones that I was shown.
Okay. So when you do a knock and talk, are you allowed to go throughout the entirety of the property?
The two deputies were sent to the back for officer safety reasons. I stood on the right-hand side of the porch, looking down the
There's no
back.
object is not responsive.
All right, that'll be sustained.
So the question, officer, and I don't want to quote you, I just want to make sure we go through this logically. When you go do a knock and talk, are you allowed to wander around the premises of the place you're going to go knock on?
No,
Okay. And so the jury understands what knock and talk means. You're going at that point without a warrant, correct?
going where?
Wherever you're going to do the knock and talk.
Oh, yes. Walk up to the front door, yes.
Because when you have a warrant, that's permission to do whatever you want to do within the confines of the warrant. You don't need to ask anybody at the front door for permission, right?
Yes, sir.
But when you don't have a warrant, that's when you go knock and see what you can get voluntarily, maybe.
Possibly.
In some cases, they might say, sure, search all you want, right?
It has happened.
And in some cases, you might get information that helps you document the reasons for the warrant.
Yeah, to develop probable cause.
Exactly. And in fact, that's what you're doing in this situation, correct?
I was not doing it. I was there. I didn't knock on the front door.
Okay. But you agree with me that when it's a knock and talk and not an execution of a warrant, that you're more limited in what you're legally allowed to do.
Yes, sir.
For example, you couldn't just go in the home uninvited,
Oh, no, sir.
and you couldn't go to the backyard uninvited.
No, sir. Unless you have probable cause.
Okay. Now you suggested despite what you just explained to us, that you instructed patrol officers to go behind the house. Or somebody did.
To watch the house, watch the back of the house.
Is that where they were able to see in plain view things that were in the backyard?
I could see in plain view from the side of the front of the house.
You could see in plain view items in the yard, correct?
Yes.
You couldn't look into the car from the front of the house.
What car are you talking about?
There's a red truck in one of those pictures, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't looking at that.
Okay.
There were other vehicle parts
Okay.
there.
And it's not illegal to have vehicle parts in your yard, is it?
No, sir.
So who did sign the affidavit for the search warrant in this case?
I had no idea.
Well, let's find it. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Show you detective has been marked defendants number 3 for identification purposes. Does that look like a standard application for a search warrant?
Yes, sir.
Um, if you could read to yourself the details of the location and the date, and, then I'll ask you some more questions. Does that appear to be the search warrant attached to the investigation you participated in December 2020 in Addison?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you now know who did the affidavit for the search warrant?
Yes, sir.
Was that a member of San Antonio law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Was that person with you when you went to do the knock and talk?
No, sir.
Was there a separate knock and talk or was it just the one that you did?
Just the one we were there.
So you're saying that the person who signed the affidavit saying that he saw things in plain view wasn't even there at the knock and talk?
How it's written, yes.
Okay. So have you ever written an affidavit for a search warrant?
Yes.
And the information that you attest to in your affidavit, where do you get it from?
It depends. If I have it, if another officer gives it to me, I usually put their name in there.
Okay. But in some cases, it's things that you personally observed, correct?
Yes.
Whether it was in a knock and talk or as part of an investigation you're conducting, correct?
Yes.
Because the affidavit for the search warrant is the officer basically telling the judge, Judge, this is what I know, and I'm gonna swear to it. And then you give me the warrant,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And so do you, I won't ask about other officers, but do you personally take that very seriously, that if you're swearing to something, you need to know that?
Yes, sir.
You're not gonna put, I think they might have stolen stuff. You gotta tell them what you know and how you know it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you just now told us that if another officer gave you information, you'd want the judge to know, this particular information came from officer so-and-so, and I'm relating it to you, versus things that I know that I'm telling.
Yes, sir.
Because it's a big deal if a judge finds out later that there was false or misleading information in an affidavit.
It could be.
Because the judge is relying on the officer's word in giving that permission to go into somebody's property.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So who was the person who signed the affidavit for the search warrant in this case?
Detective Moscoso.
And your testimony officers, when you went to do the knock and talk, he wasn't there.
No.
When you went and made contact at that location, was that the first time law enforcement had been at that location as a result of this particular case?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Because as you stated to us earlier, you officers work in close concert with each other, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if someone else had some prior knowledge or involvement with that address, you would have known that before you went out there.
Yes, sir.
And that wasn't the case in this situation.
I don't recall if I looked up the address for any priors. I believe I did.
So who was in charge of this knock and talk?
Detective Hodge.
But he's not the affiant on the search warrant either.
No, sir.
And so so describe this for us, since we weren't there. Who's knocking on the door and where's everybody situated?
Detective Hodge went to the front door. I went to the right side of the residence to make sure no one comes out the side. And I had the two deputies go towards the back so they can watch the back.
Now, to be clear, officer, there's no allegations that there's any violent people in this house, correct?
No, I do that on everyone.
And there was no information that any crime was actually being committed at the time that you were there.
No, sir.
So it was just being extremely cautious
Yes, sir.
because you don't know who's there and what you might find.
Exactly.
Okay. So part of the basis that allowed the judge to issue the warrant, now that you've looked at it, was things that were seen on the property. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Were they things that you saw or somebody else, if you know?
I saw him.
Well, you saw car parts generically, correct?
I saw that and I saw the camper show.
Okay. And you saw that while you're standing in the front yard?
Not the camper show, but the car parts and all the other items that were in those pictures.
Which is a bunch of boxes.
Boxes, yes.
So certainly from where you're standing, you can't tell if that's stolen property
No.
or whether those boxes are empty.
At that point in time, I didn't know what was stolen.
And didn't know what you were looking at other than, and you couldn't see the camper shell, right?
Not the original. When I walked around, I could see it.
When you went to the backyard.
Yes.
So, and you may or may not know the answers, but if you know the answer, when you read that affidavit and it's stated in there that things were seen in plain view, who's saying that?
According to the affidavit, Detective Moscoso.
Who wasn't there?
Not at the knock and talk.
And how is it that you come to that conclusion that he's the one that saw it in plain view? Is it because of the way he wrote it?
Okay, actually on the warrant, it does say other detectives from the San Antonio Police Department.
Well, I'm focused on the affidavit, officer, not the warrant itself.
What was your question again?
Specifically in the affidavit, there's a reference to seeing things in plain view. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
Based on your reading and your knowledge of how affidavits are written, who do you believe is talking when they say, I see in plain view?
Object to mischaracterization. Where in the document does it say I see?
Well,
Say that.
it says,
All right, counsel, re-ask your question, please.
there's a reference to plain view in the affidavit for the search warrant, correct?
Where is that listed in?
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
I want to make sure we're both looking at the same thing.
And Your Honor, may I approach as well, just to make
Yes.
sure we're all on the same page?
I'm not seeing.
Yes, they're just reviewing things.
Let's read all that to you.
That's.
All right, counsel, what's your question?
So in looking at the affidavit, officer, can you determine who is the person that suggested items were seen in plain view?
Says deputies.
So that refers to the two officers that went to cover the back door.
Yes,
Okay. You're not one of the persons that suggested you saw what you believe to be contraband in plain view,
no,
because you.
I don't know how he referenced it,
Okay,
who he's saying. I mean, there were three deputies out there, two
okay,
deputies and myself.
so there's the two that went to the back door, right?
Well, they didn't go to the back door, they just went to the back side.
Okay, back of the house,
Yeah.
somewhere. And then you're on to the right of the front door,
Yes,
and then there's one officer, Hodge, at the door.
yes, knocking,
So there's four in total.
yes.
And so the way you read this affidavit is that the persons who saw items in plain view were the officers that were to the rear of the property,
Yes,
and not the person who wrote the affidavit.
correct.
That's what it's.
State?
State.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Use.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. All right, you may step down. Thank you. State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls CSI Scott Coonrat.
All right, if you'll take a seat here, please. Can you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up for members of the jury and the court reporter. Could you state your name for the record?
Scott Coonrad, Coonradt.
All right, state.
All right, so CSI Coonrat, who do you work for?
I work for the San Antonio Police Department,
And how long have you worked for the San Antonio Police Department?
just under 26 years.
And what have you done for the San Antonio Police Department?
I'm a crime scene investigator.
And is the abbreviation for that just CSI?
Yes.
Is that usually how people would imagine it from TV shows or movies?
No.
Would you agree that it's quite different?
Yes.
What are your duties as a CSI?
Basically, depending on the call or the case, we go out, we do everything from photographs to fingerprints to other types of documenting the scene, collecting evidence.
So do you go on your own or are you usually asked to come out somewhere?
We're usually dispatched or called.
And I want to draw your attention to December 22nd of 2020. Were you working on that day?
Yes,
And were you called out to help process a scene?
yes.
Do you recall what was the address that you were called out to?
Could I see my report?
Copy of your report. If you just do me a favor, just can't read directly off of it or from it, but you can refresh your recollection and then answer the question.
Yes, I was, dispatched out to, 13641 Greenwood Road.
And what did you do when you were dispatched out to that scene?
I made the scene, and contacted, detectives out there who were executing a search warrant.
And as a part of processing the scene, what primarily were you doing?
On this particular case, I was just, requested, to take photographs of the overall scene to include, some recovered stolen property.
And walk the jury through what goes into you taking photographs of the scene. How do you approach it?
Basically, when I get there, I kind of like start from the outside and photograph the overall scene, try to get like an address, and then work my way in, photograph, kind of the overall exterior. If I'm going into a house, photograph the location, if there's an address on there or an apartment number or room number, building number, and then go inside, do overall photographs in there. And then depending on the type of case and the detectives out there, sometimes, they want specific things photographed, like they did in this case.
So do you take direction somewhat from the detectives or people handling the scene as to what to document?
On this particular case, yes, because there were actual follow-up detectives out there.
So I'm gonna approach. Approaching with what's been marked as station exhibit number 111. Do you recognize this? And the item that was in states 111, it's an envelope.
Yes, it's a disc that has, my name, photos, and then, I initialed it, put my badge number and the date that I looked at the photographs.
And on this disc, are these the photographs that you took back in December of 2020?
Yes,
Okay, and are the photographs that are on this disc, have they been altered in any way?
no,
Honor, the state would offer states exhibit number 111 and the disc side.
Any objection?
Just a couple of questions. How many pictures are we talking?
It's like 290.
Just briefly, Judge, and I can, more dire, just so I can make
Yes.
sure I can object or not. So can you just tell us did you just took pictures of basically everything that was on the property as you saw it?
basically, yes. And like I said, I started on the outside, they had me photograph, there was a bunch of stuff in the, rear of the, location outside. And then they had me photograph the overall inside to include some specific items that they were wanting documented.
And who was directing you to take these pictures?
Various detectives with our auto theft unit.
So things that are in the yard and things that are in the house, they asked you to take pictures of.
Yes.
Okay, no objection, Judge.
All right, States Exhibit 111 is admitted.
Now, I'm going to show you what was previously marked state exhibits numbers 383. Now, I'd like you to take a brief moment just to kind of take a look through some of these photographs and see if you recognize any of them.
Yes, those are all pictures of various items and stuff that I was requested to photograph.
And you took photographs of those items at the address on Greenwood, is that correct?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
No questions.
All right, is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state of the defense. You may step down. State, call your next witness.
State rest, Your Honor.
Defense.
Judge, we have a motion we'd like to present to the court.
All right. Can I have both parties approach, please? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let you all enjoy your lunch break at this time. And I'm going to have you all come back at 1. I think that'll give you plenty of time to walk around downtown and find a place that maybe is not as expensive. If you go off the beaten path, it's less expensive and you can grab a sandwich or something and just enjoy the river walk. I think there was some rain or something last night, so all of the pollen and whatever's out may have been washed away. So we'll come back at 1. Remember my instructions. You're not allowed to talk about this case to anyone. You're not allowed to start internally, thinking about the case with yourself or discussing it with each other. If you see anything or hear anything, you're to ignore it. Make sure your badges are visible because sometimes attorneys will talk about cases, but if they see that the jurors around, they will not. Remember, everything that you need to know about this case is to come from. All right. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. You have rested and defense, you have a motion.
Yes, Judge, we'd like to move for an instructed verdict on the indictment as it's set out before the court.
All right. And
Well, Judge, the evidence that's uncontroverted from the complainant himself was that the value in total was way less than $300,000. Even though he moaned and groaned and complained about what he settled for, bottom line is he acknowledged that he signed a document where he agreed in the settlement of his case that the value and the worth of the items that were stolen from him were way under 300,000. I think the exhibit that's been admitted into evidence suggests 214,000.
okay. All right.
And I'm sorry, Judge, and there was one other point. He also said there was nothing of any value that was in the items that were returned to him, which the only evidence of items that my client was ever in possession of was what was taken from his property.
All right. And state.
Your Honor, we oppose the motion. All we need is a scintilla of evidence to get past this motion, Judge. And so the evidence, I think, there's enough evidence in front of the jury that they could find defendant guilty based on the facts and evidence. They can make reasonable inferences from the evidence that's been presented. Also, in this document, the RCB value is over $400,000, which is what USA values the property at. So, I mean, the settlement value may be less, but the value that USA said, hey, this is what these things are worth, that's higher than the minimum amount we need to reach, Your Honor. So, for those reasons, we ask that you deny the defense's motion.
I couldn't disagree more, Judge. That's not what that document says. It says, if you read it completely all the way to its end, it gives you the actual cash value. And for purposes of theft, it's the value of the item at the time that it's stolen, not what you might have paid for it before. So They negotiated to the actual value, and that's what he settled for, and that's what he accepted.
All right.
Yes.
So which exhibit number is this, please?
It's defendant's two, Judge.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and take our break so Diana can have a break. I'm gonna review defense exhibit number 2. And I'm gonna have you all back here at 12:30. I have emailed you all the jury charge. Well, you know what? Let's say 12:45. Because I've emailed both parties the jury charge and I will come back with my ruling. But please review the jury charge and let the court know if there's anything you want added or subtracted. What I can tell you is what's in the jury charge are lessers if anyone wishes to have lessers. And also the issue with regards to the search warrant is in the charge as well.
So, Judge, we haven't gotten on the record yet. Who's asking for lessers?
No, I'm just saying, what I do with the jury charge is I put everything in the jury charge. You all can review it and then you can make a decision on what you don't want in it or what you do want in it. If you don't come up with an agreement, then I'll make a ruling on that. So far, nobody has asked for anything. So far, you haven't asked for anything as it relates to the search warrant. The state hasn't asked for lesser included, but I've just given that to you all so you all can review it during the break. And then when we come back from the break, I will give you my answer with regards to your motion. And also, if I rule against your motion, then you all will help already review the jury charge. That's the court's only point, because I don't want the jury to be waiting.
Okay.
The only other thing, Judge, I guess on this particular matter is we have the defense exhibit 2 has one set of numbers, and then state's exhibit 84 also has a different set of numbers. So I think that's a question of fact that the jury needs to consider. Judge.
All right, so for me to make my ruling, if I could please see the defense exhibit that you're speaking of with the value and also the state's exhibit. And with that being said, we're going to take our recess. We're going to come back at 12:45. At that time, if there are some issues with the jury charge, everyone needs to let me know what those issues are. And at 12:45, I will come back with my ruling on this.
Yes, ma'am.
And Judge, since you're gonna be looking at those things, let me just make sure that the record's clear. I'd ask the court also to revisit your ruling on the motion to suppress in light of Officer Knocker's testimony. He clearly stated that plain view only occurs when somebody goes into the backyard. He also suggested that the person who requested the search warrant is not the affiant. And finally, he also suggested that the law requires and policy requires an inventory to be returned, which was not done in this case at all.
All right, so with regards to law, the court knows the law. But with regards to your stating that the affiant who obtained the warrant, are you saying that the affiant was untruthful in the request for the search warrant?
Well, I think he was misleading and ambiguous about certain issues. For example, the plain view, he doesn't say how they plain view from where, like how. So I could see where the court could interpret, they saw that in a way that was not violative of the Fourth Amendment.
But are you saying that the affiant was untruthful? That's what I need to know. Because if you,
If I had to pick, I would say yes, because he's misleading and untruthful are just two ways to say the same thing. He didn't give the court truthful information that the persons who saw things in plain view were officers who were placed where they weren't supposed to be. And Officer Knocker, who was there, saw them doing that. As a matter of fact, he suggested, he told them to go back there where they weren't supposed to be, and then use the information that they obtained. So yes, I would say that's exactly what he told us, that, and he demonstrated his very clear understanding of how search warrants are done, how they're obtained, what's required to be in the affidavit. He's very knowledgeable because he's done this many times. And I think he even acknowledged himself,
okay,
maybe we kind of bent some rules there.
all right.
Judge, I don't think that's supported by the record. With Edith Serrano's testimony, she says that backyard is a shared space between at least 3 houses. There's no fencing back there that sections off the defendant and Edith's backyard. And then with the detective's testimony, he says He went back there. You could see from where he was on the side of the house in plain view, these items strewn about. And so, Judge, I think your earlier ruling on this matter is what you control here, where you excise portions of the warrant or the affidavit for the warrant and still found sufficient probable cause, and that's what I think we should go with, Judge.
All right, so with regards to revisiting the motion to suppress as it relates to the search warrant, the court has heard the arguments from both parties. The court's previous ruling will stand. I did have a chance to review Defendant's Exhibit number 2 and State's Exhibit number 84. Both of those were admitted into evidence. What is in Defense Exhibit number 2 is a document that has USAA at the top of it. And it has a claim, a net claim remaining of $137,397.29. State's Exhibit number 84 has in it a total value of $366,605. So with regards to your request for a directed verdict, that will be denied. All right, so we will come back at 12:45. If y'all will look over the jury charge and let me know if you're in agreement with it or if there's something else you want added or taken away, let the court know. And of course, that is not the final charge. That is just the court putting everything in the charge that potentially may be asked for by both parties. I have not made up my mind or intend to make a ruling that that is the final charge. That's just in anticipating what I thought maybe both parties would be asking for. If it's something you do not wish to be in the charge, just let the court know. Does everyone understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, thank you. We're going to go on recess.